So good morning everyone. Today I am going to discuss about the grid and cloud computing unit 2. So coming to the contents of the unit 2. So this is the grid services. This is the topic name. So in the unit 2 we are having the grid services. These are the contents of the grid services. That is introductions of Open Grid Service Architecture. Introduction to Open Grid Service Architecture. In short word, we can say it is a OGSA. Next, motivations, functionality requirements, and system property requirements. So next, coming to practical and detailed view of OGSA and OGSI. And next is detailed view of OGSA and OGSI and data intensive grid service models and OGSA services. So these are the different contents we are going to discuss in this presentation. Next, coming to the introduction to Open Grid Service Architecture. So what is mean by OGSA? OGSA open source grid service standard jointly developed by the academia and IT industry under coordination of working group in global grid form GGF. Okay, so what is mean by OGSA? So who is invented this OGSA? You see, the full form of OGSA is Open Source Grid Service Standard. It is developed by the IT industry under the coordination of working group in global grid form. So the standard, it's a standard defined by the common framework, and it allows for mainly business to build a grid platforms across enterprises and business partners. So both open source and commercial software to support a global grid infrastructure. So this is the introductions of the OGSA. So in this OGSA we are having different functions, that is OGSA framework, OGSA interface, OGSA grid service handle, grid service navigation, OGSA security models. So these are the different functions we are available in the OGSA. So coming to OGSA framework. So what is mean by OGSA framework? See, in OGSA was built on two basic software technologies. So OGSA is built on two basic software technologies. So what are those two technologies, ma? Globus Toolkit, widely adapted as a grid technology solutions for scientific and technical computing. And why we are using the main purpose of Globus Toolkit, ma? It is mainly used for the grid technology solutions for scientific and technical computing purposes. So it is mainly used for scientific and technical computing purposes. That is called Globus Toolkit. So another software technology is Web 2 Web Service 2.0. Web Service 2.0. It is this this frame is mainly utilized for business and network applications. So in the OGSA framework we are having two types of technologies, new technologies, that is Globus Toolkit and web services. The use of Globus Toolkit is for mainly utilized, it is scientifically and technical computing purposes it is mainly utilized, and Web 2.0 services is mainly utilized for business and network applications. So OGSA is support the in order to create, OGSA is mainly used and support for creating, termination, management and innovations of stateful transient grid services via standard interfaces and conventions. So this purposes we are using the OGSA. So what is the OGSA framework, ma? In the OGSA framework we are having two important technologies, software technologies. One is Globus Toolkit and another is web services. Globus Toolkit is mainly used for the purpose of scientific and technical computing, and Web 2.0 services is mainly utilized for performing the business and network applications, and it mainly support the support for creation, termination, management and framework innovations of stateful transient grid services via standard interfaces and conventions. So what is the OGSA framework specifies the physical environment, security, infrastructure profile, resources provisioning and virtual domains and execution environmental for various grid service and application programming interface access tools. So this is called the OGSA mainframe. So next, coming to in this OGSA we are using the OGSA interface. So what is the use of OGSA interface? In the OGSA interface, it is the OGSA is centered on grid service. So in the grid service we are having the cloud and grid. So in the grid service, OGSA is located in the center of the grid service. These services demand a special well-defined application interfaces. So these interfaces provide the resource discovery, dynamic service creations, lifetime management, notifications, manageability. So these are the different resources will be interacted by using the OGSA interfaces. So what is mean by OGSA? In the OGSA is located in the center of the grid service, and it mainly demands for the well-defined application interfaces. And in this we having different services that demands for special application interfaces, that is resource discovery, dynamic services, dynamic service creations, lifetime management, notifications, and manageability. So these are the different things we are available in this OGSA interfaces. So we having the two key properties in the grid services. One is transience and statefulness. One is transience and statefulness. So these properties have significant implications regarding how a grid service is named, discovered, and managed. So we are having the two key properties, that is transience and statefulness, and these two properties is mainly uh, implications for regarding the creating how to grid services is named, discovered, and managed. So being transient means the service can be created and destroyed dynamically. Stateful refers to be a one can distinguish one service instance from another. So we are in the OGSA interface, we are having the OGSA on the center of the grid services. It demands these services will be demands in special defined, well-defined application interfaces. That interfaces provided the resource discovery, dynamic service creations, lifetime management, notifications, and manageability. In this we having two properties, that is a transience and statefulness. What is mean by transience? It means the service created or destroyed dynamically, and stateful means it can be distinguished it can distinguish one service instance from another service. So this is called the OGSA interface. Next, coming to the OGSA, grid service handle. So grid service mitigation. Okay, so in the what is mean by migration, grid service migration? So in this mechanism we are creating a new services and specifying the assertions regarding a lifetime of service. So the OGSA model, in this OGSA model, it defines the standard interface. In this OGSA you are defining the standard interface known as factor. To implement this reference, any services that is created must address the former services as the reference of later services. Each dynamically created grid services instance with a specified lifetime. So this is called the grid service migration. Next, coming to OGSA security models. So what is mean by OGSA security model? So in the grid works, the grid works in heterogeneous distributed environment, which is essentially open to the general public. So what is mean by grid OGSA security models? So in the grid works in in the distributed manner. So whatever the grids we are taking, that grids will be work in a heterogeneous distributed manner. So which is essentially open to the general public. So we must able to detect the instructions or stop. We must able to detect the instructions or stop the virus from spreading by implementing the secure conversations, single login access control, and editing for republications. So these are the security models of the OGSA. So in this grid, in this grid, we have security policy and user levels. We want to apply the service or endpoint policies, resource mapping rules, authorized access to critical resources, and privacy protections. So at the public key instruction PKI services. So in this we are using the PKI, public key infrastructure, that is PKI service level. The OGSA demands the security binding with the security protocol stack and bridging of certificate authorities uses to multiple trusted intermediaries, and the trust models and secure logging that is practiced in the grid platform. So whenever we are using the grid security models, so in this we have to use the security levels in order to protect the data. So for that purpose we are using the PKI, that is public key infrastructure service level. On OGSA it demands the security binding with security protocol stack and bridging of certificate authorities. So for the multiple trusted intermediaries and the trust models and secure loggings are practiced in the grid problems. This is called the OGSA security models. So next coming to grid service handle. So what is mean by grid service handle? So in this grid service handle, in the shortcut we can say it is GSH. So it is globally unique name that distinguishes a specific grid services instance from all others. So OGSA employs a to handle a resolution mechanism for a mapping from GSH to GSR. So GSH means what ma? Grid handle service. Grid service handle. GSH means grid service handle, and GSR means uh, grid service resolution. Grid service resolution. So GSH means grid service handle and grid service resolution. So in this grid service handle, so we are handle the resolution mechanism for mapping from GSH to GSR. GSH must be globally defined particular instance. So this is called the GSH, grid service handle. So next coming to, so these are the different services of the OGSA. So in this OGSA, what we are having, the OGSA means Open Grid Service, Open Grid Service of the introduction. So in this we are having different functions, that is OGSA frame and OGSA interface, OGSA service handle, OGSA service grid service handle, and grid service migration, and grid OGSA security models. So these are the different functions we are available in the OGSA. So it is the next coming to the OGSA standard. So what is mean by OGSA standard? So acronym of the OGSA, what is the full name of the OGSA? Open Grid Service Architecture. So OGSA defines how different components in a grid interact. So OGSA, why we are using OGSA means, so how the grid interact with the different components. So that is why we are using the OGSA, and it will be discussed what are the components are available in the grid to interact with the others. So OGSA architecture is a set of standards defining a way in which information is shared among the components of large heterogeneous grid systems. So okay, so what is the use of open grid service architecture? So this standard is used to share the information among the diverse components of the large and heterogeneous grid systems. So a grid system is a scalable wide area network. Grid system is a scalable wide area network that supports the resources sharing and distribution. So why grid system is nothing but is a global in nature, and it is also a distributed in manner. Okay, so it will be distributed in different ways, whatever the information available in the grid, and it will be receive the information, access the information from the users in wide area network. So this is the grid system is a scalable wide area network that supports the resource sharing and distributions. So whatever the resource available in the grid, we can share that resources, and it will be distributed in different way, different manner. Okay, so this is called the OGSA standard. So in this OGSA, we are using the global grid forum, that is service oriented architecture, that defines a this open grid architecture is mainly used for grid based applications, and open refers to be a both the process to develop the standards and the standards themselves. So in OGSA, everything from registers to computational task or data resource considered as a services. These extensible set of services are build blocks of the OGSA based grid. So in this we are having facilitate used management of resources across distributed, heterogeneous and environment. So and in this we are having in this OGSA intent, we are having to deliver the seamless quality of service. So whatever the information we are accessing from the grid, so that will be delivered in the with quality of service, with a good reliable and quality of service means without any error problems, that information is getting to the user. So that is called the quality of service. Define open published interface in order to provide the interoperability of diverse resources, and it has the exploit industry standard integration technologies, and it develops the standards and achieve the interoperability, and it integrated, virtualized and manage the services and resources in this in different heterogeneous environmental. So whatever the information we are having, that is deliver functionality as loosely coupled interacting services with industry accepted web service standards. So what is mean by OGSA? The OGSA is developed the global grid forum. It gives the formal and technical specifications for the grid services. So in this grid service interfaces, we are having the port type in WSDL. So this type of port types is supported to the grid services. Some additional informations relating to this grid services is using the service type. A whatever the elements are available in the OGSA, that is extensibility, and the interfaces address discovery, dynamic service creation, lifetime management, notifications and manageability. So these are things we have discussed in the previous introductions of the OGSA. So and in this OGSA we are having the grid services, that's implementations of platforms, which is IT infrastructures, and that is existing in the OGSA services. So next, coming to, these are the standards of the OGSA. So this is the main architecture of the OGSA. So now I am going to explain what is this working of this OGSA architecture. So in this OGSA architecture, we defines how different components will interact with each other in the grid environmental. So grid environmental lo manaki koni different components unnai. So ఆ different components అనేది ఎలా interact అవుతాయి, ఓకేనా. సో in the it is a set of standards that define a way of including in which information is shared among diverse components of large heterogeneous grid system. So what is mean by grid architecture ma? Grid open system service architecture. See, in this we having the different components. So this is the diagram. In this we having different components. So how these components are interacting with each other in this environment. So in this standard we having information which is shared among diverse components of large and heterogeneous grid systems. So this is the in this architecture we are having the some layers, 4 layers. So what is those 4 layers means? So these are the layers. So in this architecture we are having the 4 layers, that is physical and logical resource layers, web service layers, OGSA architecture, grid service layers, grid application layers. So in the OGSA, I mean open grid service architecture, we are having the 4 different layers, that is physical and logical resource layers. Second one is the web service layer. Third one is OGSA architecture and architecture grid service layer. Fourth one is grid application layer. So these are the 4 layers available in the OGSA. So what is the use of physical these 4 layers? How they are interacted with each other? So what are the components available in this each and every layer? So now we are going to discuss about this in physical and physical web service, OGSA architecture and grid application layers. So first one, coming to the physical and logical resource layers. So these are in this we are in this physical and logical resource layers we are having servers, storage, networks or typical resources. So database managers, workflow managers are logical resources. What are the logical resources we are having? Servers, storages, networks are the physical resources. Servers, storages and networks are the physical resources. So database managers, workflow managers are the logical resources. So in this we are in the first layer is a physical and logical resource layers ma. In the physical resources what we are having? Servers, storage, network. So these are the physical resources. What are the logical resources? In these logical resources we are having database managers, workflow managers. Okay, so the logical resources manage the physical resources. Logical resources will manage the physical resources. Both logical and physical resources are OGSA enabled resources. Okay na? So both we are having the, in the first layer we are having physical and logical resources. Physical resources is nothing but servers, storage, network. Okay, logical resources is nothing but the database managers and workflow managers. So these logical resources will be manages the physical resources. both physical, logical and physical resources are OGSA services. So next in this physical and logical services, we are having the web service layers. What is mean by second one is the web service. In the OGSA architecture, second layer is the web service layers. So what is the use of web service layers? In this web service is a software available only that could interact with the other software using XML. It consists of open grid service infrastructure. So yeah, web service is a software available only that could interact with only the software which is using the XML. So it only using the XML. This is the web service layer. Web service is a software available online that could be interact with each other software using the XML. So consisting of open grid service infrastructure, OGSA sublayer, which specifies the grid service and provides the consistent way to interact with grid services. So in this we are having the web service layer, we are having the some infrastructure grid service open grid service infrastructures అనేది available గా ఉంటాయి web service layers లో. So these are the sublayers of the these are the sublayers of the web services, and it specifies the some interaction between the grid service. It specifies the grid service that provide the consistent way to interact with grid services. It also have the extensions of the web service capabilities. Okay, so in this we are having the diagram. So this is the diagram of the web service layer, OGSA layer. So this is the open grid service infrastructures are available here. So these are the different infrastructures we are having, that is life cycle, state management, service groups, okay, and notifications, factory, and handle map. So these are the different infrastructures available in the web service layers. Okay, so in the web service layer I having the OGSA infrastructures, that is called life cycle, state management, service groups, factory, notifications, handle map. So now we will discuss about this diagram. So in this first one is a life cycle. We having the four interfaces in the web service. First interface is called factory. So what is the use of factory? It provides a way for creation of new grid services. So in order to create a new grid services, we are using the factory. So it provides a way for creating the new grid services, that is called the factory. So next interface is the life cycle. So it manages the grid service life cycles. So grid service it will be manage the grid service life cycles. Next is the third one. It's our third interface is state management. So what is the use of state management? It manages the grid service states. It completely manages the grid service states. Next, service group. It has a collection of indexed grid services. Next, fifth one is a notification. So whatever it manages the notification between services and resources. So these are the five interfaces we are having in this web service layers. So what is mean by web service layer? In this web service we are using the software using XML to interact with each other. That is called the web service software. And in the web service we are using the infrastructure grids, open grid service infrastructures. In this open grid infrastructure we are having different interfaces for interacting with the grid services. Those interfaces is called factory, life cycle, state management, service groups, notifications. So these are the five interfaces available in this grid OGSA web service layer. So next coming to OGSA architecture service layers. OGSA architecture service layer, that is the third one. Okay, third one. So OGSA architecture service layer. So this is classified. This OGSA can be classified into three service categories. This is a large. This is a layer which is mainly classified into three source categories. Three service categories. They are grid core services, grid program execution services, grid data services. What is three things ma? Grid core services, grid program execution services, grid data services. Now coming to first one, grid core services. What is mean by grid core services? So in this grid core services we are having four main types of services. Again we are having four types. So first we are talking about the OGSA architecture service layer. So architecture service OGSA architecture service layers lo four services ఉన్నాయి. So first one వచ్చి grid core service, second one is grid program execution service, third one is grid data service. In the first one grid core, now I'm talking about the grid core service. Grid core services లో మళ్ళీ three services అనేది ఉన్నాయి. What is those three services? Sorry, in the grids, four services we are having. First one is a service management. So what is mean by service management? So first one, service management is nothing but it is assisting installation, maintenance, and troubleshooting task in grid systems. So what is the service management, ma? In this service management, we are assisting in installation, maintenance, troubleshooting tasks in grid systems. So these are the different tasks we are doing in the grid system. That is called the service management. Second one is a service communication. So service communication. So it includes the functions that allows the grid service to communicate. So it allows the functions, some functions that allows for grid service to communicate. So what are those functions, ma? So in the previous we have discussed that functions. Okay. So we are using that functions in order to communicate with the grid services. So this is called the service communication. Next, third one is policy services. So what is used of policy services? It provides the framework for creation, administration, management of policies for system operations. So this is called the policy services. Next, security services. So what are the security services? It provides the authentication, authorization for mechanisms to provide the interoperable security for the grid service. So what is the security services, ma? We are providing authentication and authorization mechanism to the system. So these are the four services we are having in the grid core services. So one is service management, service communication, policy services, security services. So these are the four services which is available in the grid core services. So next one is a grid program execution. Grid program execution services. So what is mean by grid program execution services? It having, in this we are having again three things. That is it supports the unit grid systems in high performance. It supports the unique grid system, high performance computing, collaborations, parallelism. It also supports the virtualization of resource processing. So what is mean by grid program execution service, ma? So it supports the unique grid systems with high performance computing, collaborations, parallelism. It also supports the virtualization and resource processing. So this, about this virtualization we will discuss in the next unit, in the unit 3. So this it supports the virtualization of resource processing. So what is mean by grid data services? What is mean by grid data services? Next one is a grid data services. So in this grid data services, it supports the data virtualizations and provide mechanism for access to distribute the resources such as database and files. So what is the grid data service? So it supports the grid virtualizations and provide the mechanism to access the distributed resources such as database and files. So in this we are having a small diagram. So this is the diagram. So in the open grid service architecture diagram, so in this we are having the domain specific service, program execution, data service, core service, and web service resource framework, web service messaging, security, etc. So these are the different things we have seen now. So we have explained now. So program execution now and explain program execution. Data services. What is mean by data service? So grid data service is nothing but this one. So this part is at the right side we are having the data service. At the left side we are having the program execution. Okay. So at the down at the middle of this diagram we are having the core service. So in the core service we are having the four services. Now we have explained. These are the services. What are those services? Core service. So service management, service communication, policy service, security service. So these are the four services we are having in this grid core services. Next, this is the grid program execution. Grid program execution is, this is called the, at the left side we are having. So in this diagram, if you see this diagram, we can understand. So grid program execution, this is the program execution. So next, core service. Now I am discussing about the data service. So what is the use of data service? It is having the data virtualization that provide the mechanism to access the distributed resources such as database files. In order to access the database or files, we are using the data services, that is called virtualization. And next, coming to the application layer. So what is mean by application layer? So this is the diagram we are having. So next, coming to application layer. So grid application layer. So in this layer comprises of applications that uses the grid architecture services. So grid computing allows network resource to be combined and used. So this grid computing offers a groups of services for the benefit of organizations. So this is called the application layer. So next coming to the, so up to here we have discussed about the OGSA architecture. So what are the we have learned about the OGSA architecture. Now we are going to discuss about the motivations of the open grid service architecture. So what is mean by OGSA motivation? So in this motivation we having the different goals. So in this motivation we are going to discuss about the goals of the OGSA. So what is mean by motivation? So in this motivation we are having different functional requirements. What are we have different goals of the OGSA. So first goal is what it uses to management of resources data across distributed heterogeneous environments. What is the first goal of the OGSA? It provides the facilities for using and managing the resources and data across distributed heterogeneous environments. So next one is a deliver the seamless non-trivial quality of service. This is the another goal. So we have to manage the resources and distribute across the data with a heterogeneous environment. Okay, so globally we have to distribute all the data and files, and we can manage all the resources in the motivation. This is first goal. Second goal is whatever the data we are delivering, that should be reached in a quality of service. Okay, this is the second goal of this OGSA. Next, third one is we have to publish the interfaces in order to provide the interoperability of diverse resources. So it defines the open published interfaces in order to provide the interoperability of diverse resources. So this is the again next goal of the OGSA. So next coming to, it is the extent of our new technical requirements. It is extent to new technical requirements. So in this we are having refactor globus protocol suite for common base and expose key capabilities. And these are the four orthogonal goals. So service orientations to virtualize the resources and unify the resource service information. Service orientation to virtualize the resource and unify resources, services and information, and embrace key web service technologies for standard ideal leverage commercial efforts. So these are the large orthogonal goals, four orthogonal goals. We are going to develop these standards to achieve the interoperability, and integrate, virtualize and manage the services and resources in distributed heterogeneous environment. We are going to deliver the functionalities are loosely coupled interacting services aligned with industry expected web service standards. So these are the different goals of the OGSA. So in this refactor globus protocol suite, so this is the first one. So in the, I told that in the grid in this motivation we are having four largely orthogonal goals. First one is refactor globus protocol suite to enable common base expose key capabilities. So in this we are having the different things we are in this refactor globus protocol suite, that is extract, generalize, allow modular use of protocols and mechanisms for reliable innovations, invocations, service descriptions and information access, notifications, policy management, lifetime management, service naming, authentications. So these are the different protocols we have to follow in the grid service. So this is also goals of the goals of the OGSA. Okay. Next, the second one is a design in integrated uniform fashion and extended into new areas. So in this protocol suite of address, we are having manageability, concurrency control and others. So these are the services and protocols available in this designed in a integrated uniform fashion. So next one is a service orientation. What is mean by service orientation? So in this service orientation, we have the all entities by interface and behavior. So all the resources and programs are treated in the same manner and accessed in same way virtualization easy to achieve. So this is called the service orientation. For example, computer service may be computer or network. Service may be a computer or a network. Embrace standards. What is the use of embrace standards? So in this embrace standards, we having two distinct issues. So that is standard means standard means of defining, discovering, and invoking the interfaces. So interfaces addressed by web services. Standard means of customizing computer systems to applications requirements addressed by hosting environment, that is J2 triple .NET. So these are the hosting environments of the OGSA. So and these are the important goal. So next, this is the example. So these examples of the motivation OGSA, and these are the different motivations. We have goals. Motivation is nothing but goals of the OGSA. So next, coming to functionality requirements and system property requirements. So what is mean by basic functionality requirements? So coming to the first one. So in this basic functionality requirements, we are discovering and broking mechanisms are broking. We are discovering and broking. The mechanisms are required for discovering and allocating the service, data, and resource with desired properties. So we are discovering the data and broking the data, and mechanisms are required for discovering and allocating the service, data, and resources with desired properties. For example, clients need to discover a network service before they are used. For before using that, client need to discover a network service. The service brokers need to discover hardware and software availability, and service brokers must identify the codes and platform suitable for execution requested by the client. So what is the example? So first, clients need to discover a network service before they are used. So before using that task, we have to first discover the network service. So the after discovering that network service, the service brokers need to discover the hardware and software availability, in which the service broker must identify the code and platform that is suitable for execution requested by the client. So that is metering and accounting, data sharing, deployment, virtualization organizations, monitoring, policy. So these are the different requests of the clients. Okay. So and next, coming to in the in the OGSA functional requirements, we are having basic functions, security functions, resource management functions. Also, okay, what we are having my functions? One is basic functions. That is, what is the use of basic functions? In these basic functions, we are having discovering and broking the discovery and brokering, virtual organizations, data sharing, monitoring, and policy. Monitoring and policy, these are the basic functions. So in the OGSA functional requirements, we are having some basic functions, that is discovering and brokering, virtualization organization, data centers, and monitoring and policy. These are the basic functions of the OGSA. So next, coming to security functions. What is mean by security functions? It provides the multiple security infrastructure. It provides the multiple security infrastructures. Multiple security infrastructures in the OGSA. That is authentication, authorization, and accounting and instant new services. So what is the security functions? In these security functions, we having multiple security infrastructures, that is authentication, authorization, and accounting instant new services. So this is called the security functions. Third one is a resource management functions. So in this it includes the advanced reservations, notifications, messaging, scheduling, load balancing, logging, disasters recovery, workflow management, fault tolerance, self-healing capabilities. Everything will be available in the resource management functions. So what is the three functions we are having in the functional requirements of the OGSA? So first one is a basic functions, second one is a security functions, third one is a resource management functions. So now coming to basic functions. In these basic functions we are having discovery and brokering, virtual organization, data sharing, monitoring and policy. So second one is a security functions. So what is the use of security function? It includes the multiple security. It includes the multiple security infrastructures, that is authentication, authorization, accounting and initiate new services. Next to third one is a resource management functions. It includes the advanced resource reservations, notifications, messaging, scheduling, load balancing, logging, disasters recovery, workflow management, fault tolerance, and self-healing capabilities. These are available in the resource management functions. So next coming to basic requirements. So this is the next coming to system property requirements, fault tolerance and disasters recovery. So now only I told that we are having the fault tolerance. This is the properties of this system. So this is the fault tolerance, disasters recovery. Next is self-healing capabilities, legacy application management, administration, agreement based integration, secure grouping, aggregation of services, security requirements, multi-security infrastructure. These are the healing capabilities. These are the different problems which is selfly manages these problems by the OGSA. And next coming to the these are also perimeter security solutions, authentication, authorization, accounting, encryption, applications and network layer firewalls, certifications. These are the different problems which is these are the different issues which is occurred in these basic requirements. So these are all handled by this self-healing capabilities. Okay, so the next coming to resource management requirements. What is mean by resource management? Now only I thought provisioning, resource virtualization, transport management and monitoring, resource virtualization. So resource usage. These are the resource management requirements. Next, load balancing, advanced reservation, notifications and messaging, logging, workflow management, pricing. These are the basic functions. So okay, next coming to the I told in the requirements we having some basic that is discovery and brokering. What is mean by discovery and brokering? What is mean by discovery and brokering? So here if you see here, uh, so this is discovering. What is the use of discovering and brokering? So in this we are having mechanism to discover and allocate the service, data and resources. Service brokers checks the availability of software and hardware and identify the codes and platforms of executions. Identify the code and platform for execution. So what is mean by discovery and brokering? In these mechanisms we are going to discover and allocate the service, data and service resources. The service brokers checks the availability of software and hardware and identify the codes and platform for execution. So manamu discovery and brokering. Discovering ante in this we are having the services like data and resources. So service brokers ఏం చేస్తాయి, చెక్ చేసుకుంటుంది మనం సాఫ్ట్వేర్ హార్డ్వేర్ అనేది యూజ్ చేస్తాం, మన ప్రోగ్రామ్ని ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేయాలంటే ఎలాంటి ప్లాట్ఫామ్ అనేది ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేయడానికి నీడ్ అనేది మనము ఐడెంటిఫై చేయాలి. వీ హ్యావ్ టు ఐడెంటిఫై ద కోడ్ and then platform for execution. So that is the discovery and brokering. Metering and accounting. What is mean by metering and accounting? So metering to record the usage and duration, both device and license. And accounting audits the usage of based on metering. So this is called metering and accounting. Next, data sharing. So manage the data, achieves data in catch. Manage the data in catch. So and next coming to the and data consistency for indexing metadata. So this is called the data sharing. Next coming to deployment. What is mean by deployment? Deploy the data in the hosting environment. Deploy the data in the hosting environment for execution. Deploy the data in hosting environment for execution. And application executables for running applications. So these are the deployment. And next coming to virtual organization. What is mean by virtual organization? So here we are having metering and accounting, data sharing, deployment. Next deployment was deployment data in the hosting environment for execution. So deployment data, whatever the data we are having, that is executed in the hosting environment. So deploy applications, the applications will be run in the running apps, executed in the running apps. So this is called the deployment. Virtual organizations, it create the virtual organization in grid to provide the resource to customers job. For the customer job, in order to for the customers job, they are need to they need the resources. So the grid virtual organizations will be provides the resources to the customers job. So in this grid, in the other grid, it required the either shared data or resources. So this is called the virtual organizations. Next coming to monitoring policies. Next is a monitoring policies. So what is mean by monitoring? In this we are having two levels of monitoring, low level and high level. What is mean by low level? Low level is a resource management, high level is a business process management. So users can monitor their job across cross organizational view of resources, files over management. So these are the monitoring policies. Next coming to requirements. Next coming to requirements. Okay, so in these requirements we have, that is called security. So what is the security? Authentication, authorization and accounting. To enter the use of applications data in the grid, we need authentication, authorization and accounting. Encryption, data encryption will be while transmission from one location to, so encryption means what? One location to another location we are sending the data. So in order to in order to avoid the hacking of data from between the two nodes, we are providing the encryption for that data. So multiple level security infrastructure. So it is in the distributed environmental single password or multiple level security is provided. So multiple security infrastructures is nothing but we are providing the in the distributed environmental we are having the single password and multiple security, multi-level security. Next coming to perimeter security solutions. It provides the security to on either side of the firewall. Outside firewall security is called a perimeter security. So these are the requirements of this security. So up to here we have discussed about the OGSA, introduction of the OGSA and architecture of the OGSA and details of the OGSA and motivations of the OGSA and functionality requirements of the OGSA. So these are the different things we are having in the unit 2. In the next class we will discuss about the OGSI. Okay na? OGSA means what? Open Grid Service Infrastructure. About this detailedly we will discuss in the next class. Okay. So thank you ma. So thank you.